My ex-wife tried to sabotage my new relationship, but my grandparents' inheritance had other plans. I'm a 34-year-old male, and about 2 years ago, my life imploded. My ex-wife, Sarah, and I had been together since college. A solid 12 years, married for 7. We had the quintessential perfect couple vibe going on. We had a nice house, 2 dogs, stable careers. Or so I thought. The unraveling started subtly. Sarah became increasingly distant, always on her phone, taking late calls she'd brush off as work. I, being the naive, trusting idiot I was, bought it for a while. Then came the business trips that extended into weekends, the sudden desire for girls' nights out that lasted until dawn, and the vague, unconvincing excuses. My gut screamed, but my heart wanted to believe in the Sarah I thought I knew. One Tuesday morning, I woke up to an empty bed. Sarah wasn't just gone, her side of the closet was bare. A note was taped to the bathroom mirror. It was short, clinical. She had left me for someone else. No explanation, no apology, just a cold statement of fact. My world shattered. The next few months were a blur of pain, confusion, and legal proceedings. Sarah, it turned out, had been having an affair with a much older, wealthy man, a former client of hers. She had carefully, methodically, planned her exit, moving assets, consulting lawyers, all behind my back. The divorce was brutal. She fought for everything, leveraging every legal loophole, trying to paint me as the neglectful husband who had driven her away. I was emotionally and financially drained by the end of it. She walked away with a significant portion of our marital assets, largely due to some premarital agreements she had cleverly insisted upon, and a settlement that felt like a slap in the face. I was left with the house, which was heavily mortgaged, and the crushing weight of betrayal. My family, bless their hearts, were furious with Sarah. My parents, particularly my mother, had adored her. To see her do this to me, their only son, broke their hearts as much as it broke mine. They offered endless support, helping me keep my head above water during those dark days. My friends rallied around me too, dragging me out for drinks, forcing me to eat, listening to my endless shinquan of anger and grief. A year after the divorce, I was slowly, painstakingly rebuilding my life. I had thrown myself into my work, gotten back into hobbies I'd neglected, and even started therapy. I was learning to be happy again, to trust myself, and even, cautiously, to trust others. That's when I met Emily. Emily was like a breath of fresh air. She was kind, intelligent, funny, and incredibly understanding. She worked as a veterinarian, and her passion for animals was infectious. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue, and there was an instant connection. We talked for hours, laughing easily, finding common ground on everything from our love of hiking to our shared cynicism about reality television. She knew about my past, about Sarah and the messy divorce, and she approached it with empathy, never judgment. She understood that I was still healing, and she was patient, allowing me to set the pace. Our relationship blossomed beautifully. Emily made me feel seen, valued, and loved in a way I hadn't felt in years, perhaps ever with Sarah. She brought joy and light back into my life, and I found myself falling deeply in love with her. We talked about our future, about moving in together, about eventually getting married and starting a family. It felt real, honest, and utterly right. Then, Sarah reappeared. It started with subtle things. Emily would get anonymous emails at her clinic, hinting at my troubled past and warning her to be careful. Her social media profiles, which had always been private, suddenly had strange new followers, accounts that seemed to pop up out of nowhere. Then, one day, a package arrived at Emily's office. Inside was a collection of old photos of Sarah and me, looking happy, along with printouts of some of my more vulnerable posts from a private grief support group I had joined after the divorce. Posts where I had expressed my pain, my anger, and my struggles with trust. The accompanying note was typed, unsigned, but the message was clear. He's still obsessed with her. Don't be a fool. Emily, bless her unwavering trust in me, brought it all to me. She was upset, but not angry at me. She was angry for me. We knew immediately who was behind it. Sarah. It was her modus operandi, manipulative, underhanded, designed to sow doubt and discord. I was furious. My therapist had warned me about Sarah's potential for gaslighting and manipulation, but I hadn't expected this level of vindictiveness, especially not after 2 years. I wanted to confront her, but Emily, ever the calmer head, suggested we gather more evidence first. We changed our privacy settings, blocked suspicious accounts, and reported the incidents to the police. though they admitted it would be hard to prove anything without more concrete evidence. The harassment escalated. Sarah started showing up at places she knew I frequented: my favorite coffee shop, the gym, even the park where I walk my dogs. She'd accidentally bump into me, feigning surprise, and then launch into a monologue about how much she missed me, how she regretted her decisions, how she still loved me. It was all a performance, designed to be seen by Emily if she happened to be with me, or to make me doubt myself. One particularly brazen incident occurred during a charity gala that Emily and I were attending. Sarah, somehow, managed to get herself an invitation. She cornered me near the bar, started crying theatrically, and tried to kiss me, all while making sure Emily, who was talking to some colleagues across the room, could see her. I pushed her away, disgusted, and quickly went to Emily, explaining what had happened. Emily, once again, was understanding, but the incident clearly rattled her. She started to withdraw a little, the carefree joy she usually exuded replaced with a subtle anxiety that I knew I had to do something drastic. This was not just about me anymore. It was about Emily, about our future, about protecting the beautiful thing we were building. I felt powerless. However, Sarah was wealthy, had good lawyers, and was skilled at operating in the shadows. It was around this time that my grandmother passed away. She was a remarkable woman, strong, independent, and fiercely protective of her family. I loved her dearly, and her passing left a significant void. After the funeral, my grandfather, a quiet but shrewd man, called me into his study. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of grief and a twinkle of something else, a knowing look I couldn't quite decipher. "Your grandmother," he began, his voice raspy with emotion. "She always had a keen sense of character, and she certainly had Sarah's number." I was surprised. My grandmother had always been polite to Sarah, but I hadn't realized she had seen through her facade. "She worried about you, son," my grandfather continued. "When you got married, she insisted on something. A secret. Something to protect you, should things go sour, and she had a feeling they might." My grandfather then revealed that my grandmother, a very successful businesswoman in her own right, had established a trust in my name years ago. This wasn't just any trust. It was a substantial sum, enough to provide significant financial security, and it had been structured in such a way that Sarah, even with all her legal maneuvering, could never touch it. The funds were tied to a very specific set of conditions, designed to protect me, especially in the event of a divorce. My grandmother had explicitly stated in the trust's documents that the funds were to be released to me only if I were to be divorced under circumstances that indicated malicious intent or fraudulent misrepresentation by my spouse, and if I were facing undue financial hardship as a result. Furthermore, a substantial portion of the trust would be unlocked if I were to remarry someone deemed of good moral character and with genuine affection for me, as determined by a panel of trustees she had appointed, a panel that included my grandfather and two of my grandmother's most trusted legal advisors. The trust also included a clause that allowed for additional funds to be disbursed to me if I or my new partner were to face unwarranted harassment or undue influence from a former spouse. I was stunned. I had no idea. My grandmother, in her infinite wisdom and foresight, had created a safety net for me, a secret weapon against future heartbreak and financial ruin. The timing of its revelation, after all of Sarah's recent machinations, felt almost prophetic. My grandfather looked at me, a stern but loving expression on his face. "Your grandmother believed in justice, son, and she believed in protecting her own. Now, what are you going to do about it?" That was the turning point. I had a powerful tool, not just for financial security, but for leverage. I consulted with my grandfather's lawyers, who were already aware of the trust and its intricate details. They confirmed that Sarah's recent actions, particularly the harassment of Emily, fit the criteria for unwarranted harassment perfectly. We decided on a course of action. I sent Sarah a cease and desist letter, not from my personal lawyer, but from my grandmother's formidable legal team, detailing the trust, its clauses, and the potential legal ramifications of her continued harassment. The letter was carefully worded, making it clear that every single one of her attempts to disrupt my life and my new relationship had been documented, and that if she didn't stop immediately, we would pursue legal action that would not only expose her manipulative behavior but also, critically, affect her financially. The trust, as my grandmother had envisioned, had a clause that allowed for legal fees incurred due to such harassment to be covered from its funds, effectively meaning I could outspend and outmaneuver Sarah without personal financial strain. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Sarah, who had always thrived on her perceived power and financial advantage, suddenly found herself facing a far more formidable opponent. She knew her wealthy new partner would not appreciate public scandal or legal entanglements that could expose his own less than ethical business practices, which my grandmother's lawyers had, of course, thoroughly researched. Within days, the anonymous email stopped. The strange social media followers disappeared. Sarah no longer accidentally bumped into me. The silence was deafening, and glorious Emily, when I explained everything, was initially overwhelmed. She couldn't believe the lengths my grandmother had gone to protect me. But more than that, she was incredibly touched. It reaffirmed her faith in me and in the strength of our relationship. It showed her that I had a family that cared deeply and that I was truly moving forward with my life. The final stroke of poetic justice came a few months later. Sarah, apparently, had continued her manipulative ways with her wealthy partner, attempting to control him and his finances. Unbeknownst to her, my grandmother's legal team, still on retainer, had been quietly observing, gathering information. When Sarah made a particularly egregious move, trying to siphon off a significant sum from his accounts, his own legal team, who had been alerted by subtle hints from my grandmother's lawyers, was ready. The resulting fallout was spectacular. Sarah was not only cut off financially, but the details of her manipulative behavior, including her attempts to sabotage my new relationship, were leaked to the social circles she had worked so hard to impress. Her reputation, the very thing she had prided herself on, was in tatters. She lost everything she had gained from the divorce and more. Emily and I are now happily engaged. We are planning a small, intimate wedding, surrounded by people who genuinely love and support us. We are buying a new house, a place where we can build our future without any shadows of the past. My grandmother's trust has provided us with a foundation of security that allows us to focus on what truly matters: our love, our future, and our happiness. I often think about my grandmother, smiling down on me, a twinkle in her eye, knowing she had, in her own quiet, powerful way, ensured that I found my true happiness, free from the machinations of those who sought to destroy it. It wasn't just an inheritance. It was a legacy of love, protection, and profound wisdom.